Most of you know me from participating on this work group. I'm Donna Davis, and there are a number of my colleagues presenting today. So we can begin, Mike, with the next slide, and I'll introduce them. They'll introduce themselves as they take their turns presenting. So you have heard prior in different circles about MiraCosta's Career Center and what its structure is. We've heard people say that we have, practically an army working with us, which isn't necessarily the case. We are very fortunate that we have a career center that is fully funded. And you see here how it's split out with folks who don't all work in the career center, but many do. Of course, the district funds our dean. We're located in instructional services and report to the Dean of Career Education. There's my position as Career Center Director, but I'm also the chair of our instructional department, Career Studies. There's a full-time career counselor. It's the only career counselor in the district. Of course, there are several other counselors who work in the counseling department, EOPS, for the Uprise program, in the Puente program, and several other areas. We were fortunate to have a district-funded internship coordinator. That's Mike Green, who's here with us today. A student employment coordinator, which in many campuses is offered through the financial aid office. Our student employment coordinator is Viviana Rodriguez. She's here with us today. The Career Center coordinator is formerly our administrative assistant, but her position was changed to Career Center coordinator after a campus-wide review of positions, class and comp study. And then we have two part-timers district funded. As far as the grant funding goes, of course, our Associate Dean of Career Education, who now is Ben Gamboa. Thank you for giving us Ben. Employment Services Program Manager is Nina Lovejoy, who cannot be with us today. She was formerly the internship coordinator and she moved to the grant funded position. Employment Services Program Coordinator is what we call our job placement case manager in other areas, but ours focuses on overseeing employer outreach, interaction, and development. Internship and Employment Technical Specialist is Erica Georgen, who's here with us today too. That's our main specialist, Job and Internship Network. And then we've got a part-time associate career counselor, and of course our work-based learning liaisons, which on other campuses are called work-based learning coordinators. And Robin Allen is our work-based learning liaison, who's here with us today. So the most simplified way we try to engage with faculty and students around career milestones is this 1, 2, 3, 4 step, probably guidelines more than a defined process, but we ask them to do one thing in their first semester, which is to have a career conversation. Have a career conversation with a faculty member, a counselor, a career counselor. Just begin that conversation in your first semester. Semester 2, engage in at least 2 work-based learning activities. And Robin will talk more about the types of activities those are. Many of you know because I'm preaching to the choir, as they say, in this environment. In the third semester, we ask them to complete 3 critical activities to participate in their internship. And I think Mike is going to talk about what those activities are. And if not, we're happy to share what those are. But students are not able to just sign up for an internship. They have to meet certain thresholds before they can participate. And our internships are all for credit at MiraCosta and all run through the Career Center, not the individual departments. Semester 4 is to do that internship, get some experience and prepare for their future. So you'll hear us, and you have heard us in various venues, talk about JANE, which stands for our Job and Internship Network. It is through the vendor grad leaders. We came up with the acronym because we implemented this in 16-17 after the 15-16 grant that allowed us to do a lot of research into different companies that were providing this type of database, employer database. And We chose to go with Jane so that if the conversations happening at the region at the time about adopting a region-wide system were to come to fruition, we could change vendors without having to re-identify the brand of what Jane means at MiraCosta. So Erica will talk a little bit more about Jane later, but Jane, you'll see on all the slides, it will become like, oh, again, Jane, as we go through. On Jane is a national jobs, employers can advertise nationally. So that occurs on there. However, our use of it is in concert primarily with our 410 local employer partners, whom the employment services team outreaches with and develops relationships with. And they post jobs and internships and book, when we could have on-campus recruitments, book on-campus recruitments through Jane. And our next week's virtual job and internship fair will be held through Jane. So all things related to what we do regarding the type of work we're talking about today occur through Jane. So now I'll introduce Mike Green, whose photo you see there. These are the people on the team who work in any aspect related to work-based learning. So take it away, Mike.
Thank you, Donna. As Donna said, I am the internship coordinator at MiraCosta College, and I'm here today to present on work-based learning and our processes within the WBL kind of activities that we provide at MiraCosta. We have a great staff and faculty here that help us in the work-based learning realm. Such a great partnership and a great team. We definitely couldn't do it without everybody here pitching in. So with our processes and how they're concerned, we have them funneled in 3 different kind of pools: the employer-initiated pool, the faculty-initiated pool, and the student-initiated pool. And what you'll see before I get into this actual slide is you'll see little icons next to each of these bullet points. That is how we track the data within that process piece. So if you see the Jane logo, we track that within Jane. If you see a Google Doc logo, you'll see that that's done in a spreadsheet, either in Excel or Google Doc. And then we also have the little calendar, which is SARS, which is the site that we use, the program that we use to book our appointments that we have with students mainly, and also how we track our presentations and so on and so forth. And then you also see the Canvas icon. Canvas is our online class kind of website that we use for all of our classes. So you'll see all of these icons throughout the presentation, and that just is to let you know this is how we're tracking the data for this individual piece. So if we start in the employer-initiated kind of pool, employers will come to us with an internship position that they have to fill. We will encourage them to post that onto Jane. That way we can email it out to relevant students within those appropriate majors and share with our faculty so that they can also share with students. If employers request to network with faculty, that happens quite often. Employers will want to connect with faculty here at MiraCosta. We do have a policy not to give out faculty contact information. So we add them to a list, that's a Google sheet. And then we make that sheet available to our work-based learning liaisons and also faculty so that they can go to that sheet to use as resources. So if an employer wants to present in a class or wants to be open for informational interviews, we kind of have a repository for them on that Google sheet. Moving over to the faculty-initiated bucket, you'll see that faculty will ask for classroom presentations or workshop requests from the Career Center, and we track that in SARS. That request is made through our website, or they can email us directly. And so we can go in and talk about all the various different career readiness things or all the services that the Career Center offers. Secondly, there you'll see that the request for employer interaction within classes. And so we typically send those requests currently to the work-based learning liaisons. They kind of manage that for us. And we have that sheet, that spreadsheet that's set up with all of those interested employers to do that. And then if they want something from an employer that's not existing currently, that connection, we will work to build that relationship with the employer for them. And then lastly, on the faculty initiated piece, you'll see internship posting. So sometimes our faculty will have internships that they're offering themselves for various reasons, as you know, kind of as a teaching assistant, or maybe they're in a larger group or a student group and they need student help with that in a more formal way. They will post that on Jane as well. And then again, we email relevant students so that they can apply. Moving into the student-initiated pool, again, students will request presentations from us for either student groups or maybe to come to their classes. It would be student-initiated. So that is done via email. We track that in SARS. Students will come to us looking for internships, and so we will direct them to Jane. We will help the student find internships on Jane. And again, that process that Donna spoke of before, student has to have taken a class in their major in the area of discipline. So if they're an accounting student, must have taken at least one accounting class here at MiraCosta. We need to get approval from that accounting faculty that the student is ready to represent MiraCosta in an internship. And so that's an email that's done from myself or my colleague, Erica Georgian, who will be speaking later. We'll reach out to them and get that approval saying like, yes, the student is good to go. And then thirdly, they have their resume approved by someone in the Career Center. And once they do those 3 steps, they're kind of screened and ready to start the internship search. So they'll go into Jane, search for internships, apply, and hopefully be awarded an internship so that they can start their internship class. And that's all reported and done and tracked through Jane. And then lastly, we have on-campus internships that are related to the internships that faculty post a lot, but also maybe we have a student that have a student worker position and they want to receive credit for that. If it is within the realm and their discipline that they're studying here, we can set up an internship for them to earn academic credit for that. And we also have this thing called the introship. An introship is where maybe a student isn't quite ready for an actual internship yet. They might work with certain faculty members on campus that are connected to various different industries, and they'll work for those companies through the faculty member, and not directly for that company. So we call that an introship, to where they're still earning some time and some experience there, but it's not a formal internship, so to speak. On the next slide, we'll talk about our initiatives and best practices, and I'll hand it over to our work-based learning liaison, Robin Allen.
Hello, hi, my name is Robin Allen. I have been teaching at MiraCosta in the sociology department for 7 years and a work-based learning liaison since the summer of 2019. And I'm going to share these top 3 items. The first one, our newest adventure, and the other 2, some of the meat and potatoes of the work that we're doing at MiraCosta. So the first one is our new spring 2021 community of practice. And we recruited 21 faculty, and we were very, we looked to look evenly among our academic and career pathways to make sure we had faculty with reaches that would reach across campus. We were very lucky, though, that among these 21 faculty, we have some very experienced faculty that incorporate work-based learning and have been doing this for a while, and also some fresh faces that are excited to learn about work-based learning. So we're really trying to cultivate a culture of sharing in this community of practice. We have 4 guided synchronous discussions where we meet together on Zoom once a month, where we call it our third Thursdays. And then we have, in conjunction with that, a Canvas shell. So faculty participate in a discussion board, getting them ready for the next events. And we're also able to share resources with faculty through that Canvas shell. We found a lot of, initially we just wanted a discussion board, but we found a lot of great uses for having the accompanying online resource there. And we focus on best practices for contextualized teaching and work-based learning. We bring in, we've brought in Mike Green, we brought in our service learning coordinator to come talk about internships and service learning. And really trying to, especially when we're in this remote time, really make those connections for faculty, because we do have an amazing team and a lot of resources at MiraCosta. The second one I'll talk about is our career research assignment. And I did share this with the region. It's a 3-part assignment. The first part is the career coach assessment, where the student goes in and answers those 60 questions, just to give them an idea or a feel of, what might spark their interest. They also do a second piece, which is a financial exploration. In my particular rendition, what does it cost to live in San Diego County? And they do a research thinking about their future family and that cost of living piece. Many students after this, they think, well, maybe I'm going to look at a different county. But that's always interesting, especially for the younger students to see, well, am I on the right career path? And then finally, and other colleges could use this assignment in different ways, but there's that connection with the Career Center. So for our students, we want them to get their resume reviewed by a counselor and get connected again to Jane. So go through that process and get them access to our job and internship network. And finally, one of the ongoing events that we've been having at MiraCosta are our test drive career events. And we've been really leveraging our faculty, their networks, and we've done ones on the end of life industry. We brought in 3 communications professionals. We did one with an engineer that was more of a one-on-one, but the idea is to bring in local professionals and have them talk about their career paths so students can think about and identify with what they're doing within their ACP. All right, I'll pass it on back to Mike.
Thank you, Robin. So the last 2 bullet points I'm going to talk about real quick. So our Career and Major Fair is an event that we hold every other year. And it's where we pair a faculty member in each discipline with industry personnel. And so then they sit at a table together and students are able to go around from table to table and talk to not only faculty, but also industry. So it's a career and major fair. So they have that there. So a lot of times that's great. We usually hold it in the fall when students are maybe thinking about which major to choose. And so it's a really great opportunity for them to go and get exposed to many different majors and many different careers. It's usually ran by our career counselor. And so it's a really great opportunity for our students there. We track that through SARS and we have that on Jane as well. And then we have faculty and large department collaborations that we have very often with the Career Center, where we will go in to a particular class, we go into the biotech class, our biotech 4-year program as they're about to conclude and get their bachelor's degree. We'll go in there multiple times and do career readiness kind of series with them. Go everything from, resume, cover letter, interviewing. So we're there multiple times, 4 or 5 different times. It's a great collaboration. So we really enjoy that.
It was less than ideal.
And then I'm going to go ahead and hand it back to Donna.
Okay, so everyone in this room is familiar with the Chancellor's Office Student Group 21, which assesses the level of work-based learning. And we've all participated in it. Last summer, Nina and Erica went through course level data and student level data. That's phase 1. And then in the fall, everyone at this presenting today, and Nina and Zhenya Lindstrom, whom many of you know, our former CE, Associate CE Dean, along with our curriculum committee chair, offered workshops for the department chairs to come in, learn about SG21 and different levels of involvement, and go through the courses in their department with us in a workshop fashion and determine which level those classes were. And then this spring, they're looking at, they meaning Nina and now our Associate CE Dean Ben, as well as others, are looking at section level data. And we in the Career Center are looking some of our student level data along with the service learning coordinator. And then the last phase will be, how do we track ad hoc work-based learning and faculty student reporting? And as most of us in this room are aware, that can be tough to do, particularly at these large events such as the one Mike talked about, when it's not virtually anyway, and students don't have to register. They could just come to the middle of campus when we were on campus and participate in the Career and Major Fair. And we would currently have no means of recording who participated. So those are some of the challenges we still face. Thank you, Mike. And next up, I think, is our student employment coordinator. Yes, Viviana, to talk about job placement.
Thank you, Donna. So hello, everyone. My name is Viviana Rodriguez. I'm the Student Employment Coordinator. And if we can move on to the next slide. So here's where I'm going to share with you the 3 different ways that job placement can be initiated on our campus. So the first one is employer initiated. So anytime an employer wants to recruit our students, they will either email us, give us a call, or often their info gets passed on to us from another department and then we reach out. But either way, we connect them to Jane. So that is where they will post their jobs, their internships. And then once we review it and approve it, we email it to relevant students and we share it with faculty. So this way students can view it on Jane, get the email, and hear about it from their faculty member, from their professor. Faculty also request students, whether it's for a job or an internship, and they too are directed to Jane to post their opportunity. Once they interview and select their candidate, they complete the onboarding process if it's a job or a paid internship. Students also will go to Jane when they are looking for off-campus jobs and on-campus jobs. All of our federal work study and district paid positions within MiraCosta departments are posted on Jane as well. If they don't find something or they're interested in a department that's not listed, that's currently recruiting, they will often schedule an appointment with me to discuss the current positions or where they would like to work at. We also offer career readiness workshops, so such as mock interviews, resume and cover letter writing. So they have the option of attending the workshops, or if they prefer more of a one-on-one, they can schedule the appointments with us as well. So we're there to help them get ready to apply for jobs and internships. Okay, so for our initiatives and best practices. In summer of 2019, we applied for the Federal Work Study Experiment and we were selected to participate. The Federal Work Study Experiment, it allows Federal Work Study students to use their funds for private sector internships. So then they're not limited to just the on-campus internships. We also hold our annual job and internship fair in the spring. And as Donna mentioned, we will be having our fair next week. It is virtual, and last year's spring 2020 job and internship fair was postponed because of COVID and we held it in the fall. But that is held typically every spring. We also have a specialty or discipline fairs, and they do vary by semester. One example would be when we held the health science fair in collaboration with Umoja, which is one of our ACE programs. And then the last one is the graduate outreach project. So through this project, we prepare our spring graduates to apply for full-time work in their field. We also help them complete their milestones, which is updating their Jane profile, uploading a resume and having it revised, and applying to jobs. These students in this graduate outreach project, they receive weekly job announcements tied specifically to their ACP. And now I'm going to pass it on to Erica.
Thank you, Viviana. So my name is Erica Georgan, and I am the Internship and Employment Technical Specialist. And I will touch on how we engage with employers and how employers engage with us. So employer initiated, like Mike and Viviana touched on previously, quite often employers will reach out to us with job and internship opportunities that need to be filled. And of course, that all starts with Jane. So they will post their opportunity on Jane, which then goes through the review and approval process. We then email the opportunity to relevant students, and this is usually done in clusters by major and in line with guided pathways. We share with faculty so they can in turn share the opportunities with their students. We then have the on-campus recruitment piece, which is on hold now due to COVID, but employers have the ability through Jane to request to come on campus to connect with students and share their opportunities. We have been able to do this in a virtual setting, which I will share a little later. Faculty initiated. So this is where we really reach out to faculty and ask them what local companies they would like to see their students placed in. And then we keep those employers on a regular invite list for events and fairs such as the discipline fairs, the job and internship fair, and the graduate outreach project. A special request. So faculty may come to us and want to work with a particular organization. So we would be the connection between faculty and contacts in their industry, reaching out to organizations they want to work with, and then having these contacts and resources available for things like advisory boards. And student initiated. So students have the ability to research employers and positions on Jane to apply or request informational interviews. So we are there to help students understand and learn how to do this on Jane. If students are not able to find what they need on Jane, then we have additional resources like the alumni survey. So this is where every couple of years we send a survey to MiraCosta College alumni and ask them questions like, where are they working? What's their title? Are they hosting interns, or are they available for informational interviews? We then track these survey results and contacts in a Google Doc, and we have these resources and contacts available when students come to us. And same with info sessions and industry panels, we track these contacts and have them available to connect students to. And that leads us to our next slide, initiatives and best practices. So our employment services team weekly huddle and our bi-weekly career center meeting are really crucial, especially for a bigger team like ours. It allows us to connect with each other, update the team on projects that we are working on and organizations that we are working with. This way we are not duplicating efforts. Employer info sessions. Right now we are able to do this in a virtual setting. Most recently, we had the opportunity to partner with Amazon, and they opened a new distribution center in Vista. So students were able to attend and learn about their hiring process and practices and where to apply. Employer on-campus recruitment. As I mentioned earlier, this is on hold due to COVID, but employers can still request through Jane, and we can keep these requests in Jane and contact them when we return back to campus, and then also when we have virtual events. Employer industry panels. This is engaging those employers and contacts that we've developed partnerships with. And like the amazing work-based learning events that Robin mentioned earlier, recently we had the opportunity to host a virtual design event. And this is where over 20 organizations who are currently working on construction and design projects on the MiraCosta College campus came together along with faculty and those departments to hold an event where students were able to join and learn about the industry, all the different construction projects, the different organizations, and employers shared their educational and career paths. And then proactive partnerships. So this is where we actively reach out and work with companies to develop jobs and internships that they've never had before and that are specifically geared towards community college students. We've had the opportunity to work with Northrop Grumman for over a year now, who offers opportunities for engineering and computer science students. And most recently with Qualcomm, who is offering opportunities in the IT area. So our goal is to continue to grow these partnerships and help people understand the value of hiring community college students. So that is the end of our presentation. And of course, if you have any questions, you can ask them here, or you can reach out to the Employment Services Program Manager, Nina Lovejoy.
Awesome. Thank you to the MiraCosta team. We're very happy to hear from you. I definitely took a full page of notes here, and I have a couple of questions, but I'd love to turn the time over to everybody else first to see if anybody has any questions for the MiraCosta team.
This is Angela Tilly Ruiz. I have a question for Erica. Can you tell us a little bit more about the alumni survey? And I didn't catch how often you send it.
Yes, so we do that every couple of years. And what we do is we reach out to MiraCosta College alumni and ask them about where they are working and if they're available for work-based learning events. So if they're available for industry panels, if they're available for informational interviews, if they would be willing to mentor or to host an intern. And then we save those survey results and we keep those contacts. That way students have those resources and those opportunities available.
Great, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Hi, this is Genesis from Southwestern. I also had another question for you, Erica, regarding the alumni survey. Do you use the email addresses that they had while they were at MiraCosta? And then what is your typical response rate that you're seeing from that?
We do use the email that was provided through us through MiraCosta. I will invite Donna to talk more about that because
I can kind of elaborate a little bit more. So
okay.
we did a scraping of LinkedIn a couple of years ago, maybe a year ago, and we basically just scraped LinkedIn for any information for anyone who went to MiraCosta, and then we kind of had our first pool for our initial kind of alumni survey, and then we reached out to all of them, and we like any survey, you don't get that great of return on for those answers, maybe 30% or so. And then, that gives us our pool. Some of them said, no, we're not interested, right? But the majority of the ones that responded positively. So we kept them. And then from those survey results, we called them, we broke them up. I know a lot of us called them individually to ask them exactly what type of activities they would be interested in doing and how much time they're willing to spend. And then that gave us our initial kind of list. We continue to reach back out to those same people. But since then, MiraCosta has also started an alumni association. And so we're working with our foundation that's running the alumni association to add to that list and to continue with the survey.
It's a super great idea, though, to reach out to faculty, especially for work-based learning and employment opportunities, right? Or to alumni, I should say. We tend to always want to help people who are coming from the same places that we come from, right? And so, I've used it in the past and found a tremendous amount of success and willingness on the part of alumni to support students. So, good job. Any other questions or comments?
Richard from San Diego College of Continuing Education, great presentation. My question is this: you mentioned faculty internships and work study, the difference between them, and are they grant funded?
I can take this one since it crosses two areas. Internship studies is a credit course. So that's where the distinguishing factor is. Any student who is awarded federal work study has to go through the financial aid application process and so on and accept the offer. So students can accept an offer of federal work study and do their jobs and be great at it. But if they choose to apply also for an internship, they can undergo the process Mike described with meeting the 3 critical activities and then enrolling in the internship studies class. And the internship studies class follows the same Title V regulations as the cooperative work experience education classes. Does that help you out, Richard?
Yeah, so it sounds like your interns, they'll have to be enrolled in the class. It can't be a general invitation to your students who might be interested.
At MiraCosta, we only count as interns individual students who have enrolled in either the cooperative work experience education class or the internship studies class. That is a data piece that we don't have access to right now unless it's anecdotal from a faculty member. So you're correct. If there's a student participating in an internship somewhere out in the community who's not seeking credit for it, we wouldn't know about it.
Right. And I think what I understand is internship class, of course, is a requirement. If a student is interested in an internship, can they join the class in the beginning of the semester without their internship, or do they need the internship going into that class?
So,
I'll let Mike answer.
yeah, our internship classes are dynamically dated, so they're not pre-scheduled. So so any student that finds an internship, they would report that internship on Jane to us and say, hey, I got an internship, I want a class. So then I work with them to determine their discipline, to help them find a faculty mentor, a teacher for that 292 or 299 class, and then I set that up for them. So those classes are created individually for each individual student. So it's not a class that they enroll in and then hope they get an internship. And they have a faculty member within their discipline. And so that within that class, there's only one student in that class and there's one faculty member. So it's a one-on-one experience for them.
Good, thank you.
Yeah, we're very fortunate to have that flexibility. And the other important piece is, although they're dated dynamically and occur once a student has a placement, two things. It's our job in the Career Center to help that student get that placement if that's what they want, and there's not an employer identified in Jane that they want to work with. And we only offer the classes for 17 weeks, 15 weeks, or 8 weeks, either 8-week beginning, 8-week at the end. So while it's dynamically dated, it is within those drop add parameters, within those sessions.
If a follow-up question I may, which is, your Jane sounds wonderful. How have you created such a robust network where you'll have a lot of resources? You must have a lot of industries buy-in and support, or is Mike doing a lot of hitting the phones every day and trying to get a lot? That's my question there.
We're fortunate in that when I started at MiraCosta 20 years ago, they did have an internship program. It was relatively small, but they had many of the pieces in place. And over time, you build a reputation. Our strength, I think, aside from the technology, which is quite expensive, and I'll share that with you, our strength is our faculty. We have excellent relationships with the faculty. They see us as the go-to place for all things internship employer related. Robin and her colleague Lisette are now working hard to have them also see other aspects of work-based learning. And I know everyone understands what I'm talking about here, but we have reached out and collaborated with them to survey employers in, I think it was 2016. Every single CE faculty member or faculty member who had a certificate program met with me individually, and we did that question: who would you like to see here? And we looked at their advisory boards. Who are you still working with? Who's missing? And we sent out a survey, and we started an employer newsletter. So it's a very, very close collaboration. And the employment services team responds to every referral they get from a faculty member, every question that our public information office gets in an email, they forward to us. So we're responsive as well as proactive.
And if I could just jump in really super fast on that, and because Donna kind of hit on it at the very end, is recognizing that employer engagement is a part of that overall ecosystem that is the college, right? So it's not just this part of us that's doing employer engagement. We have a very robust community relationship building infrastructure through the PIO's office. And then they work very closely with all of the necessary folks and stay very in tune with what we're doing. And so having that type of robust relationship of everyone in the college understanding all of the various roles, that's one of the robust parts of MiraCosta that helps in developing those opportunities and relationships, because the boots on the ground knocking on doors isn't as wealthy as it is when people are coming to you with those opportunities.
I also like your weekly huddles. That's so smart, that everywhere all across your program, because you're so big, that you're all getting together. That's a great best practice. And as a last question, which is, I know sometimes CE faculty hold on to their contacts and you have to build their trust to get them to let them go. So how did you do that? How did you get them to give you what, because you said you don't release faculty contacts. So that means faculty are no longer picking up the phone and calling their friends. You're doing that. And I love that. How did you interrupt that?
That's, well, it's not quite what I may have misrepresented. When I began there, I reached out to each individual faculty member, CE faculty member, introduced myself, met with them, you know, the kind of thing you do when you start a new job. How can I help? And then started attending their advisory committees. I was invited to every single CE advisory committee and attended them. And so again, it's trust over time. It's reaching out, being available, attending, and being able to speak about what the Career Center could do for the employers directly to the employers, but with the faculty there. So someone they already know and trust is introducing me, and that helped build trust among the employers. And the employers who make up the advisory committees, the faculty communicate directly with them. And now, of course, not only are we virtual, but we've gravitated to a once a year advisory day kind of an event where there's a breakfast and there are general brief presentations, and then folks split out to their advisory committee meetings. We don't run that. The dean of CE and his fantastic assistants run that for the CE faculty, not us.